Cool. Yeah, dude. Funny story about how I know about Rock Island. I mean, obviously I'm from the Midwest in that area up there, but when I was right out of high school, I got a job um at the National Cemetery. So in my hometown of Keokuk, it's like the
Uh,
only, you know what I mean, the only national cemetery, or excuse me, the first national cemetery west of the Mississippi.
yep.
And so we would go, and then we also had the Quincy National Cemetery in Illinois, which is really little. But every time we needed like headstones, like stone for headstones, uh, and other things, there's an armory in Rock Island.
Yeah, yeah, the Arsenal Island. So that is my hometown.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'd have to go there, and I went there twice to help these old Navy sailors pick up headstones. It was the craziest job I've ever had, and
That's so random. That's funny.
yeah, dude. So I'm like, oh yeah, Rock Island, dude. I know Rock Island.
Well, and so I have a Keokuk connection. My grandma's from Keokuk.
No,
And yeah,
whoa, cool.
so my cousin just moved to Keokuk randomly from the Quad Cities. Taking he runs either a Kohl's or a Walmart. Like he's the head of one of these stores, and he
Okay,
just took the job in Keokuk. But yeah, my grandma is originally from Keokuk, Iowa, and what I
that's
know
so
of
funny, dude.
Keokuk, Iowa, is the geodes.
Oh yeah,
That's
yep. Geode hunting.
yep. So
Yep, geode
yeah,
hunting, dude. Which is weird, man. You got this small town right on the river. Yeah, dude. There they are, man. I need to take my kid. I need to take my kids back there. So, are you still in the Quad Cities?
no, I'm in San Diego now.
Okay, yeah. Good for you.
Yeah,
Good for
yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. So
That's
right
great,
now
dude.
it's getting to that brag time of San Diego because it's going to start getting pretty nasty in the Midwest soon. Um,
Yeah,
they got about another month of good weather, and then I'll be looking real pretty here.
yeah. No kidding, man. And yeah, that's hilarious, dude. Who is your? Has your grandmother always lived in Keokuk?
Yeah, I mean, so she was born there, and then met my grandpa. She ended up meeting my grandpa in the Quad Cities. So she had
Okay.
moved. She had moved away. I've been there before once when I was
Yeah.
younger. Stayed with like distant second cousins. I can barely remember this,
Yeah.
but I was just back in. I was actually in St. Louis where my folks have moved, seeing my grandma for her like 96th birthday, and four of her Keokuk relatives rode their motorcycles in town, which I guess St. Louis to Keokuk is actually pretty close compared to
Yeah, it is.
the Quad Cities.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I guess this was last
Funny,
sometimes this
dude.
summer. Yeah, I met some more Keokuk people. So yeah, small
Funny,
world.
man. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
right.
Yeah, people always get like it's this weird part of the state because yeah, you just have so many people from these big cities. Like we would go to Chicago. Chicago was, you hop on the train. Chicago was only a
Hmm.
short train ride away. St. Louis was really close. Kansas City, Missouri was really close. Um, yeah, and all these big cities were just, yeah, just a weird part of
Yeah,
the
but yet it's
Midwest,
like
man.
what 10,000 people probably there.
Yeah, or less now. Now
Yeah,
I think
you're
they've lost.
you're in Oregon though, right now.
So oh, that's funny because we probably have an Oregon connection. No, I'm in Salt Lake,
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah, that's
Salt
right.
Lake,
Yep.
but I have a lot of Oregon connections. My dad is from Portland, and I lived there for a little bit.
Oh, gotcha. Okay,
Yeah,
funny
dude.
man.
Funny, dude.
Yeah,
Way
I
funny.
think I'll be the only person that you've had on that like has said they've been to Keokuk, Iowa, right?
That's very true, dude. I don't even. That's so funny because I don't even. I talk to very, very few people from Keokuk now.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I was kind of shocked my cousin was going there.
oh
Yeah.
yeah. So what are they going there for?
So he just took a job there.
Oh,
He
that's right. That's right.
yes.
That's the same
So
cousin.
yeah, raising now he's raising his family in Keokuk. So I guess
Oh yeah.
my family's going. They're going back where half of them started.
Yeah, but you know what? In those small towns, I know we'll get to all of your story. We got time, bro. But you know what's funny about those small towns? They're a really nice place to raise a family. Like Keokuk's not
Oh
a
yeah.
bad place for the most part. It's very good. Um, it's just you have to have the right job to be there.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like I couldn't be there because I'm a sales guy. There's
Right.
there's
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
there's not a lot of sales jobs in the Midwest. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying?
Yeah, and you get, I mean, the difference, in San Diego, I think of, I don't have kids. I don't intend on having children, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
And I look at, raising kids here versus in the Midwest, just from like the day to day utility of like the crowded space that we have here versus in the Midwest where it's like, oh, everybody has yards. I go back and visit my niece and nephew, and it's like the neighbor kids are running through the yard like hi as they run by. It's just
Yeah.
it's a different world. And truthfully, like for raising kids, it's fantastic, man.
Yeah, the Midwest is a good place to be. There's nothing like the Midwest kind of, or yeah, because I remember doing. I mean, yeah, dude, I remember doing that. You're just running through people's backyards, and they don't
Yeah.
know, they don't care, and
Yeah.
that
That
shoot.
ain't happening here in where
No,
I'm
no,
at
no,
in San
no.
Diego. It's like, wait, you know your neighbor?
Yeah, yeah, for real. Like
Yeah.
I'm in a pretty populated part of Salt Lake too. And yeah, I don't I don't I just the best neighbors are the ones that leave you alone. I don't
Yep.
know. You know what I'm saying? That's
Yep.
crazy, man. Well, cool, dude. I'm really glad that we met. I want to start this podcast off with something we were talking about just before we went live, and that is, you have your own podcast. You've been on a few. I'm sure you'll go on more. And my favorite question to ask people who are trying to get the message out there is, what's the biggest message that you're trying to get out there? What's the most important thing that you could bring to the world with what you're doing right now?
Love it, man. Yeah, it's ultimately that we have the capacity, regardless of how quote unquote busy everybody thinks they are, to level up and improve their
Yeah,
health and fitness. And it's
yeah,
such a foundational pillar for growth that's going to impact everything you do, whether again, parent, business. And it's something that unfortunately has been put on a pedestal through athletes, through bodybuilders, to where so many people are kind of shortchanging themselves as far as what they can get out of this life, this existence, by not really putting the value on their health and fitness.
yeah. That's and health. I mean, health is like physical health is a big one. I've talked to a lot of fitness people on my show. Like a lot of them have really successful businesses. I think that's a great way to do it. I remember talking to one entrepreneur who's writing a book. She, we were talking about business, and I was like, what happened when your health got better? She was like, I tripled my income when I
Oh
started
yeah,
taking care of myself.
yeah.
I was like, Not a joke, man. That's
Yeah,
not
I
a
mean,
joke, you know?"
and when you think about it, it's like this is the vehicle that's taking you through life, and whether that life for you is again, like you mentioned, doing sales, or again, you're a parent. Like this is the
Mhm.
vehicle that you're walking through it with. So, if it's working in a better way, like you're going to get better results on anything that you're doing. So, um, I think again, going back to that big message, it's been clouded to think that it's something that most people can't get to.
Yeah,
And that's really unfortunate because I think it should actually be a foundational piece.
for sure.
Being healthy and fit isn't going above and beyond. It's just right.
Yeah. Right, right, yeah. What do you think causes that mindset in people?
Well, so I do specifically work with business owners and entrepreneurs, and those are and I do work with men, but ladies,
Yeah.
this applies as well. It's really easy to, I don't want to say hide behind the business, because the reality is there's stuff that's going to happen and go on. Um, and so that time piece is truly challenging for a lot of people. But that's just where there's just a mismanagement of your perception and
Yeah.
recognizing like if you're taking advice from like a 22-year-old college kid who's trying to compete on stage as a bodybuilder, like that probably isn't going to be able to be applied to your life if you're raising kids and you're trying to grow a business.
Yeah.
But doesn't mean that there's not some ways that you can pull some levers that you can pull that actually will fit into your unique situation and schedule, and almost across the board it can be done.
Yeah. That's cool, man. And I like that, and I've talked to a few. That's kind of who I like to stay with. I mean, dude, listen, first of all, if you're bodybuilding and you're a professional athlete, like do what you got to do, man.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know what I'm
It's
saying, dude?
awesome.
But in the same breath, on the same sentence, I'm like, most of us don't want to do that.
Right.
Or at least if we, if we think about physical fitness like business owners, we're not thinking about like bodybuilding or
No.
getting ready for competitions, right? So what do you tell people to focus on?
So most people at this point have come to me. Generally, they are trying to lose weight. Like that's kind of been
Cool.
the initial, let's call it the red flag that has brought their awareness to they need to make some changes.
Yeah.
And then once we start to kind of integrate just some like simple stuff, it's feeling and performing good that will actually pull them through it. So,
Yeah.
losing 20 pounds and like starting to look better, like that's great. And like that will excite you in the beginning. But
Yeah.
ultimately, it's going to be, oh man, like I sleep better. I just feel better. I have more energy. Or I had a client the other day. He's telling me, he goes, dude, his like sex life's better, right?
Yeah, well, I'm sure. Yeah.
Right. Like these are the things that are actually going to pull you through in the long haul and stop it from being some temporary little, quick fix. So it's definitely more than just, oh man, I want to look good. Like that's a part of it. And that probably brings more people in the door. But ultimately it's how do you feel? How do you perform?
Yeah, how do you feel? How do you perform? And that's it, right? Because like, if you get stuck on like, I don't know if you know who Drew Manning is.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
actually had him on my podcast.
Oh, did you? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
He's been on this show too.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Because he's from Utah. When I interviewed him, he was in Hawaii.
Oh, cool.
But he used to live, and funny enough, Drew Manning used to live like right down the street,
Yeah.
like in,
Fat to
in
fit,
this.
fit to fat. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Talk about a crazy, wild story that dude has.
Yeah.
But
And I commend him for doing that because personally, I don't want to do
I know.
that.
Did you see him do the fit to fat to 40?
Yeah. Yeah.
Freak, man. What the
Right.
heck, dude? I'm like,
And again, what when
good
you look
night, dude.
at that, somebody who's a fitness professional who goes through that and kind of goes the other way, it's like
Mhm.
what were all of the like challenges and complaints? Like, yeah, he didn't look as good, but it was all about how he felt. It affected his relationship. I don't know if
Yeah.
it was with his wife. So it's like, man, your health and fitness, it impacts. Like I said, there's so many little angles that it's going to impact and that people don't realize.
Yeah, when I saw him go through that, like, and he's documenting it every day, right? Because he's got like, and he did it like fairly quickly. He did it in a healthy way, but he did it about as quick as you could do it
Yeah.
healthy, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, in
Uh,
both ways.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Putting
exactly.
it putting it on and taking it off. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's right, dude. And dude, you're right though. He was like cravings went through the roof.
Mhm.
um his mental health went sideways, and not sideways, but he experienced it,
Oh,
right? Like
yeah.
he experienced all of that.
Absolutely.
I was like, dang, man. But you're right. So that brings up a lot of good points, that it's not just about, he said he was tired all the time.
Yep.
And what I've noticed when I haven't been in shape is like, yeah, I start to complain more. Like things just it's just weird, you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah,
wonder,
you're not clicking on all cylinders. It's as simple as that.
dude.
I mean, it's like, I hate
Oh
to use the
yeah.
car analogy as the fitness person, but it's like if you got like low tire pressure and like your exhaust isn't clear and your air filter's not working very good, at the end of the day, it's just kind of like a poor working machine
Yeah.
versus somebody who else is kind of like, maintenance it. All of a sudden, it's like, man, you just get to the destination faster. It was more comfortable. Like there was less bumps along the way, and
Well,
it just
and
works
not
better.
only that, but like the mental stuff, like you're not worried about this car breaking down, dude.
Yep.
You've done everything to go right, So that's great, man.
The mental thing is huge, man. It really is. And it's something that I think most people, when they start, I always say this, like everybody has an idea. Like most people think they have to do more work than they need to do to get the result. But most people are shocked at the impact that it has. So like they
Yeah.
underplay the benefits. And I guess it's like, hey, you don't know what it really feels like to feel good because most people are, it's like you are pretty productive, like you are getting stuff done, but and oh man, there's another gear, and until you get
Yeah.
and experience that, you don't really know what you're missing, I guess.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm just taking notes too, by the way. Um, no, that is very true. That's all. It's crazy how much your body and your mind are connected.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's crazy how those things really do go together, how they really do make a difference when both are right. Like you can really just get more done.
for sure. And on a personal note, if somebody were to ask me, hey, why do you personally exercise? 100%. Oh, I shouldn't say 100% because it's like, hey, you get to look better. That's great. But ultimately, for me, the big driver it is my mental health. And it
Yeah.
hasn't been until injury that I realized how big of an impact and how much I used exercise as a tool to manage anxiety, probably maybe even levels of depression,
Uh-huh.
and recognizing like, man, when that was pulled away, how those things would rear their head.
Yeah.
And again, I think this comes back to just showing up at a place of normalcy, right? We should be active. Your body has an innate expectation to move. We should,
Yeah.
be within some levels of body composition. We should
Yeah.
eat certain things. And when you do that, you do just feel a lot better.
So what's the not secret, but what's the path to do this, right? And then I have another question, but go ahead. Right.
Yeah, it's funny. I always get asked, or a question I get asked a lot is, so what's the one thing that somebody can do? And like,
Right.
what's the one thing that somebody can do? And it's like, well, there's not one thing specifically. If we are talking, say, weight management, if we want to lose weight, there's not going to be
Mhm.
one thing that you're going to do. There's going to be a few things that, when put together synergistically, can work really well, and they can work in a way that doesn't have to take over your life.
Yeah.
But I do think the starting point is recognizing that there's no quick fix, and
Sure.
far too many people are going to approach this, and unfortunately there's going to be marketer after marketer, shoving some supplement or some gimmicky program or product down their face. But you have to recognize that, when we say it's a lifestyle, that doesn't mean that it has to be a bodybuilder lifestyle, but it has to be something that actually can fit within your lifestyle that you can do for the long term. So,
Yeah.
if you're thinking like, well, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go to the gym 7 days a week at 6 a.m. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, what time you got to get your kid to school? Oh, it's 7, and okay, then you're like that's not realistic, right? So
Yeah.
ultimately, it's coming up with something that's going to fit within your unique demands. Again, business owner, you may have a little freedom because maybe you
Yeah.
get to control your schedule, right? Maybe you can work out from home. Like, there's going to be a way to make it fit within the confines of whatever challenges that you're personally dealing with logistically.
Right. I like that you brought up lifestyle. That's something that I feel like that's personally like when you talk about the fitness world to me. And look, like I'm not the fitness that I do is I do jujitsu.
I do as
So I go
well. Awesome.
yeah, so I go to the gym. So I'll go to the jujitsu gym for an hour. Um
Love it.
and that's because I'm just like I tried, anyway. It's like that's what I do. I like that.
Yeah, love
Um
it.
But I like that you brought up the lifestyle because I feel like when you're talking when people are talking about like fitness or like wealth or anything like that, I always mention and it kind of gets tied back into like the mindset stuff.
Hmm.
Um Mindset and lifestyle, like I feel like those go hand in hand. And I told this story before, but I just love this story because it just illustrates this whole point exactly. Um and I'll be quick with sharing it, but it just like it's one of my favorites. I was selling cars really early in my career, and we had this fiery, really successful young 19-year-old kid, and he was just killing it. I mean, most money he'd ever made in his entire life. Probably like more money than his parents made. Right?
Right.
This dude's rolling in it. And one day he balls out and he goes and buys this Mercedes Benz. Like he's never had a Mercedes Benz, right? All he knows is what he saw on TV.
Sure.
And so, and by the way, like there's a reason, that people wait till they have good established money and income to go buy a Mercedes Benz. They're
Sure.
not cheap to maintain.
Yep.
And but he buys like this AMG 63 coupe black. Oh, dude, it was gorgeous. And we're like, hey, there's some things that aren't gimmicks in the car business, and one of those things are like if they offer you like tire and wheel insurance, like you might not need that on a Honda, but I would suggest it on a BMW because each one of those wheels are like 5 grand.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So we were like, hey, did you get that? He's like, bro, all that stuff's BS. And I'm like, not on that car.
Right.
And then we're like, hey, did you get the oil change package? Because like Benz will sell like this discounted oil change if you buy them up front. He's like, no, that's BS. I'm like, dude, the oil change on that is like $300. And then, I mean, everything we're telling him like to fix this thing, because like, I mean, I guess we're all like adults, right? But we just didn't realize who we were talking to.
Sure.
He's like, his eyes get bigger, dude. He's like, oh crap. He's like, well, let me run to Walmart real quick. And I was like, dude, you're in an AMG 63. What are
Yeah.
you going to Walmart for? By the way, not that Walmart's a bad place to be. It's just like, but then we got into this conversation of like Mercedes Benz isn't a car, dude. It's a lifestyle.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But it is though.
Hmm.
That's why we sell Mercedes Benz.
Yep.
It's like a Rolex.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? They're not cheap, and it's not about the watch. It's about the lifestyle.
Yep.
So anyway, I know crazy story, and I'm not the one being interviewed, but I love that. I mean, every
No,
time
it hits home.
I'm like, dude, like I don't. By the way, I don't drive a Benz, and there's a good reason for it. Anyway, I love that that lifestyle joint. What do you think now that we've we've gone through that? But what do you think the goal should be for entrepreneurs when they're talking about fitness? What do you think?
Yeah. So I use kind of a concept with my clients of guaranteed minimum standards. And
Okay.
so at the end of the day, like, do we have an actual goal? Most people who are, again, starting with me, they do have a tangible goal. If there is a weight loss, right? Like, they are trying
Okay.
to kind of get back in shape. I do think once you've arrived at that place, then you can sit and kind of be in what we would call more of a maintenance area. And there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with this. We don't have to always be, again, achieving the next milestone of our fitness. You don't have to do the next
Mhm.
marathon, but we do need to raise the standard of what that baseline is.
Mhm.
So for most people, if again we're trying to kind of step in and recover some of that fitness, recover some of that body composition, generally we're looking at anywhere from 3 to 4 workouts a week. Again, from a time restriction standpoint, this can flex, and this is what I mean by the
Mhm.
lifestyle of it. Hey, there might be a week where it's like you only get 2 workouts. Maybe there's a week where you got none because a business fire came up, and like, you're just in the grind. Like, it is what it is. You're traveling. There's a conference. Like, okay, you didn't get it in, but the people who are committed to that lifestyle, that's no big deal because they're going to hold the line on all of the other areas, which are going to be their nutrition, their overall movement and activity. and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
really
good point.
that's what we mean. If it's this uh, idea of, oh, a conference comes up or work travel comes up and it all falls apart, it's like you didn't have a plan that fit your lifestyle, period.
Mhm.
Like, that was trash, move on. There was no point in that, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
your
yeah.
14-day 21-day challenge, like, who cares, right? What are you going to do 6 months from now, 9 months, 12 months?
Yeah,
But in general, like, I do like speaking in terms of what are those minimum standards, because we
yeah.
can always raise our standards over time.
Yeah, I like that. You can always raise your standards over time, and I feel like you need just, like, some quick wins
Sure.
when you're
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about that. But
Well,
tell me what you think.
so the quick wins, again, say on like us on like the scale side of things, this is
Yeah.
where oftentimes people are like, hey, let's pull carbohydrate real quick from people because they're going to see a big dramatic drop on the scale because you're going to remove a lot of water. So every time when you remove water, it's like for every 2 grams, for every gram of glycogen, you're going to lose like 2 grams of water. So
Yeah, okay.
you can, by cutting carbs, you'll see a pretty good knock on the scale. And yeah, that
Mhm.
can get somebody excited, but it's just water. So I think realistically, it's more about setting those expectations.
Right.
Let's talk jujitsu, right? Like, hey, it'd be
Sure.
cool to get a quick win where you get to come in and you just had a day where you just armbarred and triangled everybody. But the
Sure.
reality is, you're going to go in and drown for 3 months.
Yeah, or yeah, or more,
When
man,
you
for
start,
sure.
right? Like, the
Yeah.
quick wins are like, hey, I learned how to shrimp today down the mat and I can do the warm-ups.
Right, hey, yeah, good for you, right? But
Right?
yeah, no, I see what you're saying, yes, and that's what I would say to somebody doing that, right? Like, "Ah, good for you,
Yeah.
dude.
So in this
Yeah, right
sense, the
on, man.
the quick wins would be like, hey, did you hit your standards?
Cool.
Like,
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
beautiful. That's awesome. And this is where, I think stepping in with like an adult mindset and recognizing like, hey, maybe this isn't going to be a quick fix, but I'm committed, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I don't need to be swayed by the like, I'm going to do a 7-day detox so I can see 5 pounds, a 5 pound bullshit weight loss and get excited about that. Right. Like,
Yeah, that yeah,
we're
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
step in committed with an adult mindset and say, like, I'm gonna get this done the right way. And I think those are the individuals that are gonna have more success.
Yeah, that's funny. That it is true, man. You do when you lose weight that quick, it is all water, and I knew that, just from wrestling.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
I wrestled all growing up, and yeah, dude, I mean, I we could lose you can lose 10 pounds of water weight
Oh,
very fast. You
easy.
don't I mean, one practice, bro.
Oh yeah, and I've done. I mean, well, and you guys, when you're cutting weight, actually, I wrote an article for the Huffington Post that uh,
Oh, that's
it,
cool.
it's funny because the pictures have been stolen and used to market gimmicky powders, supplements, all
Oh,
sorts of stuff.
no.
But the hilarious part is, I actually did a fake transformation photo to show how easy it is for marketers to do this. And then, funny enough, marketers actually took those photos
They
and
took
used them.
it.
But ultimately, all I did was cut weight like a wrestler. But it's like I lost 16 pounds in 24 hours, and
Oh,
I can
yeah, I
show
mean
that on the scale. It's like to somebody else, they might think, "Oh my god, wow, like this diet really
How did
does
you
it."
do that? Yeah.
And it was just water. And so
That'll be
I
right back the next day.
yep, and it was. So I think for a lot of people, it's actually steering them away from so much of the bullshit that exists in this industry.
Yeah, yeah, and there is, man. And like one of the reasons I like to talk about the goals that you help clients set is like one of also like and I like what you how you answered the question about like your standards and your daily goals, right? Cuz like if you work the plan of your daily goals that you set with clients, like obviously the weight loss will come, right?
Yep.
Um and obviously like everything else will follow,
Yep.
and I like that because I think a lot of people get hung up on wanting to work out, and maybe even after a year, maybe they committed for a year, and maybe they don't look like all of these fake
Yeah.
Instagram
Yeah.
pictures, you know what I'm saying, and they're
Oh
like,
god,
this is
yeah.
bullshit,
Yep.
and you're like, why would you know what I mean, they literally photoshop that on
Yeah.
Facebook.
And that's getting, I mean, and that's tough. And that's, I've been in this industry for a while, and I remember
Hmm.
back when I did personal training, had a guy come in who I think he was 50 and 49, going through a
Yeah.
really intense work, um, becoming some type of nurse, and so like really intense
Uh
educational component. And he's like, this is what I'm going for. And he's got a picture. I'm like,
yeah.
that is a 22-year-old fitness model, photoshopped, and that's all he does. And I'm like,
Right.
that's not going to
He-
happen, like
he's got
realistically,
fake he's got fake tans, bro.
right? Like
He's got
it's that's not going to happen. But what can happen
interesting.
is the greatest version of you. Like you can get
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and that will be enough for everybody. You know, but thinking you're
I
gonna,
like that, dude.
it will. And like I said, I always joke, like, do you ever notice like fitness people or people who kind of get the bug? They become the
Uh-huh.
most obnoxious people about it. They post their pictures, they post their recipes, they show that they checked in on Facebook, and there's a reason why, because they
Yeah.
feel really good and they want to share that with someone.
Oh, yeah,
And
okay.
it really is that positive feeling. So again, as a guy who you do jujitsu,
Yeah.
after a good jujitsu session, like you feel great,
Yeah, it's
like
amazing.
you feel amazing. Endorphins are running.
Uh-huh.
Like it might not even have been a day where you might have been the nail and
I
not
got
the
my
hammer,
I got
right?
my ass kicked, bro.
But you
Yeah,
still
buddy.
got off that mat and feel better.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think there's something really cool about, getting your heart rate up and sweating, and I'm big. I'm a big guy, so I sweat a lot. And that's why when everybody's like doing these like things, I'm like, it's just water weight, dude.
Yeah,
And I'm like, and I would know because I'm big.
yeah,
I sweat a lot. I
right.
could lose 5 pounds of sweat in 50 in your, I
Oh,
could run a mile and lose 5 pounds.
I mean, in a
Doesn't
jujitsu
be that much.
class, I'm gonna drop, I think, 2 or 3 pounds.
Oh yeah, all day, especially if you're wearing like that gi. You're
Yeah.
just wearing a
So,
sweatsuit.
oh, if you're wearing a gi, yeah, yeah, you're
Just a
wrestling.
sweatsuit,
Yeah.
dude.
And
That's
then,
crazy.
other things that when you think about, again, this is just keeping an eye on the bigger prize. And like, yes, you
Yeah,
want to monitor your weight because you are going to make adjustments off of that.
yeah.
But why you don't want to rely on one point of data, if you take a gallon of water, which like everybody could reasonably drink a half a gallon of water,
Mhm.
within an hour, it's like that's 4 pounds.
Yeah.
Like you just step on the scale, you're 4 pounds heavier. So you can't get too consumed by one point of data and let that start trying to make, um, you can't allow that to force you to pull the lever and try to take big swings where, oh my god, this isn't
Yeah,
working. I
that's a
need to
good
I need
point.
to cut my calories way more. I got to work out 2 times a day. And it's like it's not going to happen fast,
Yeah.
but it will happen.
But do you think so then that brings up a question in my mind that I've never really thought about, but just came to me while you were talking. Do you think that then that weight loss, like the number, is the best point of data to like go off of?
So if you are overweight to a degree where, like, say your body composition is, your body fat's above, say, like 20% or
Sure.
25%, like you're gonna have enough adipose tissue that like that scale is going to move. And
Sure.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
that is
Okay. Yeah.
that's a definitely an awesome tool, but also circumference measurements, progress photos, like your clothes fitting different. Those are all awesome things to assess as well.
Okay.
Um, when you start getting down into 10% body fat area, now the scale is going to be a little bit different because, hey, are we losing muscle mass, or those types of things are going to have a bigger
Yeah.
impact.
Yeah. And that's kind of what my question was. So for somebody who's just coming in, um, and they're looking at weight, they're close to that 10%. like the scale might not be the best measurement of whatever success is, right?
Yeah, you're getting into like the finer details of things where, hey, there's other ways to actually assess how much lean mass that you have that
Yeah.
could be a little bit more relevant. Whereas if you're a little bit further on the body fat side of things, you
Uh,
probably don't have to concern yourself with that.
yeah. That's cool, man. I like that because I was just thinking about that. I was like, well, then why do people put so much value into the scale?
Well,
You
and
know what I'm
yeah, and
saying?
at the end of the day, like think of it this way: say you're a 230-pound guy,
Uh-huh.
and you're like, man, I want to be 180, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, but what if at 200 you actually would look phenomenal, you feel great, you perform great, you got more energy with your kids, more energy at work, like that might be the sweet spot for you to be,
Yeah. I like that.
right?
Yeah.
You might be able to like push yourself down to 180, but now you're like, I'm hungry all the time, my joints hurt, I don't sleep as
Yeah, that's a
well.
good point. That's a
And
good point.
actually, I don't even feel like I look better. So it's like, well, who cares about the number at that point?
Yeah, it's kinda like where you feel good at.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and so there's going to be multiple points of data that you want to assess. And again, the scale can be a very useful tool, but
Mhm.
it is important for people to recognize it's just a tool. You don't have to be emotional about that data. It can
Right,
help
well, and
inform. Yeah.
it's just one piece of the puzzle.
Yep.
Like, it's not that's not everything either. That's cool.
Yep.
Great point. Yeah, because I was like, I would never I haven't been under 200 pounds, I don't know, dude, in like, I don't know, probably 10 years, man.
Sure.
And it's only because, like, what you just said, like, I'm not comfortable under that.
Yeah.
Like I feel better when I'm at a certain weight, and so
Yeah.
it's
So
good, dude.
lean into that. And you're like an
Yeah,
active guy. You're performing well. You run your business. Like, boom, there you go. Like,
cool,
that's
man.
great data to have.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah. And it's good to, like, know yourself. So how did you get started into this, man? Has fitness been just something you've always been doing?
Yeah, I think like I wish I had a really exciting story when I tell this, but I grew up playing sports, was never a great athlete, was a decent one.
Sure.
So you're not listening to the guy who is that college athlete who's just always had it. Um, Went to school for business, and
Okay.
my junior year of college was sitting in an accounting class thinking, man, I hate all of this. Like I hate accounting. And I thought, what is the stuff that I'm
That's funny,
actually
man.
like in my free time? What am I reading? And I'm reading about exercise phys. I'm reading about nutrition. And so that um, basically was the clue to, hey, like, let's look into this kinesiology department, not really understanding what exactly I was going to do with it. And then from there, I've done everything after graduating with a kinesiology degree from, personal training. I've worked in rehab studios. I've got to work with Olympic level athletes, pro fighters, to eventually where I'm at now today as an online coach and specifically working with male entrepreneurs.
Cool, man. That's great, dude. That's funny that you mentioned accounting, though.
Oh,
That's
dude,
funny.
that was the class. I mean, that was there's a
Well,
lot of
that's
class.
the
Go
That's the
ahead.
class that so I took so my bachelor's degree is in accounting.
Oh,
But that
okay. You're
but I remember like but I remember our first accounting class. The teacher was like, in this particular college, everybody had to take accounting 101. Every like nobody was safe from it. And yeah, he was like, this is going to be the worst class you've ever taken in your entire life. And I
oh,
was like,
that's funny.
dude, yeah. And you couldn't drop it. Like there's no point in dropping it. You just got to
Yeah, I,
fight
I
the
I can just picture the like T thing and like debit
every
and credit, and I'm like confused. I'm like, is that different than a debit card? Wait, debit on a debit
and then
card
it
is the like,
Yeah. And then and then it only got worse because we got into some of the higher accounting classes, and I had professors. I don't know what it is about accountants, dude. They're like these shy people whose whole point in life, like if they're teaching about accounting, is to just scare the shit out of you. So I'm like,
well,
damn, bro.
it worked for me. Like they did a good job of scaring me away,
Yeah,
in a positive way. But as somebody
yeah,
who's not really a numbers and data driven person, believe it or not, even though I use a lot of
yeah,
that obviously with clients.
yeah,
But for other I have a good friend who in the same
yeah.
class, and yeah, he is an accountant for John Deere, and so like he went through it, and I just remember asking him questions, and I'm like, I like the biology and the science, and
Yeah, that's
all of
cool.
that
Yeah,
stuff.
that's great though. Yeah,
Yeah.
we but yeah, I just that's cool. That's good, man. I like that. Because there's just yeah, I mean if you like fitness, dude, and by the way, like I really feel like that is something that people need. They need people to bring them down. I was going to ask you that question if you've ever had somebody come up to you with like super unrealistic goals and then how you dealt with that. And that's a great story. So how did that gentleman react when you
Uh,
were like, dude, you're higher than a kite?
yeah, he wasn't happy. But again, we like brought him to some realistic terms because he got in great shape and he looked great. And it's like,
Yeah.
you're just not gonna be a 22-year-old fitness model. Like,
Yeah.
and
Well,
it's just logistics at that point because with his schedule, it's like, I always use like The Rock as the example. Like most
sure.
people don't want to look like The Rock,
That's
and
fine.
that's
That's a good point.
probably good because the amount of time, if again you're building a business, like you probably don't have the capacity to maybe do what is necessary to look like The Rock,
Yeah.
but you can look really damn good and perform really good for you. So
Yeah.
if you don't have the ability to do two-hour workouts a day, it's like, well, you don't
Yeah.
have to do that to get like 80 to 90% of the benefits. It's like
Right. Yeah.
we're
Good point.
focused on like the upper echelons of, and you see it even on things like Instagram. Like, what's going to be the video that like comes across your feed? It's gonna be like a dude like flipping a tire, doing a backflip, then a sprint, and like the most crazy extreme stuff is what rises to the top.
Yeah. 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 And
And
you're like,
so yeah, I tell people it's like the big mistake. It's like you cannot treat exercise and nutrition as a marketing launch. You have to treat it as
mhm.
the business plan. It has to be something that can ride the highs and the lows, right? Like when you are busy,
Yeah, man.
busy,
Good point.
when your kid's like sick from school, like does all hell break loose, and like now you don't even know how to like feed yourself a healthy meal because you've been relying on the meal prep service this whole time, and they didn't show up, and like it's all just chaos now. And it's like life is
Right.
gonna happen.
Good point.
It's like you got to hold the line. Again, this is these standards, and
Yeah.
then it becomes easy, and then it's not weighty. It's not something
Yeah.
that's consuming your life. Like this is probably weird for people to hear, but as somebody who is involved in this field, I
Uh-huh.
personally put very little thought into my own fitness, my own workouts, and my own nutrition. Very
Uh-huh.
little. And the goal is for most people to arrive to that point. And this is where we could say it's just a way of being, right? And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. It's just you're on autopilot. Everything is just
yeah.
like, yeah,
And
you're
it,
there.
and
Yeah.
it
Uh-huh.
shouldn't be a heavy thing. And that's how, when you get to that place, that's how you can survive and be somebody who's fit, healthy, performing well. And then when the
Yeah.
chaos and the storms of life happen, which they will, or like again, something in business comes up, you hold the line and it's no big deal.
Yeah, I like that. Well, you know what you said that I really enjoyed, because this is when I talk with business owners, like I'm not a coach or anything, but I've done this podcast, I've interviewed a lot of people, and inevitably I get questions. Um, and actually the whole premise of this podcast was the position that you shared about The Rock. Like not everybody wants to look like The Rock.
Right.
Like you think you might, but when you learn about like what The Rock does and how much money he spends, like dude, that
Yeah.
that guy's gym isn't cheap. He probably got a whole team of nutrition. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Professional athlete status for sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So my thing is like what he's doing isn't bad, but to be where you want to be, like the most happy, you probably don't need to do that.
Right.
And like you said, like to get 80 or 90% of the benefits or even 100% of the benefits, like you don't need to do that. And that's what I say to business owners. I'm like, you're so focused on like Elon Musk, but
Right.
that dude literally works 100 hours a week. I'm like, you've never done one thing for 100 hours a week at all. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And so
Yep.
it's like it's not bad. Like he's doing great things and he's living his life, and I've got nothing but love for like everybody. But like you don't want that.
Right.
If you want to be happy, it might only take you 60 grand a year to be happy, dude. And who gives a
Right.
shit? Like that's fine,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah. Yeah, Elon Musk isn't doing jujitsu.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm
Right?
saying. Like,
He's
yeah,
going to
he's not
Mars.
right. Yeah, which is, and by the way, like all I say is like I have so much love for people that I just want you to like. I just want people to realize like what you're saying. It's like you don't need to look like The Rock though to be happy. Like, if
Right.
sure, I guess if you want to do it, you can. But
And that is a thing I see with a lot of entrepreneurs as well, is like they do have the ability to buckle down and push, which is
mhm,
great. And again, actually there's a lot of utility in that, particularly in like a phasic approach to weight loss, where we
yeah,
can get hyper focused and like, hey, let's do the work and get it done. But then we do have to return to a place where it's like we can maintain this. And again, I'm going to use the way of being, for the rest of your life. And far
yeah,
too many people, particularly in the entrepreneurial space and business owners, like to ride those peaks, right? Like
yeah,
they like
yeah,
the grind and the push, but it's like you can't sprint forever. Like
Right,
you
right,
can't
right.
sprint a marathon, and ultimately your health and fitness is a life. It is a lifelong event.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, man, and, like, and I interviewed a finance guy who gave me some of the best advice I've ever heard, and that was, like, we were talking about finance plans and stuff, and he's like, "The only plan I give to people is the one that they'll stick to." And I was
Right.
like I was like
Fantastic.
I was like, "Dang, bro, way to simplify to make me feel stupid."
Yeah, that's perfect,
But
man.
it's
I love
but it
that.
is, right? It's like, yeah, the only one you'll stick to, dude. Because
Yep.
like I was saying about like we were both, we both agreed with, this idea that like you probably don't wanna stick to the rocks plan, dude.
Right. Yeah. Like,
Just,
or like you sure as shit don't want to start there. Like,
god damn, bro, you're totally right, dude.
so that's
Man, that would
another.
be over. That's a
Oh,
great point. That would be terrible.
right. Like,
Like,
I
"Hey, we're
mean,
gonna work out 3 times a day for 2 hours. You ready?"
yeah. I
No.
mean, jujitsu, same thing, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I've
yeah,
been
yeah.
out with some injuries, and like I'm looking. I can't wait to get back on the mat, and it's like that is going to be a very slow on ramp
Yeah, yeah,
for
well, yeah,
me.
and it should be, like, and
Hmm.
I love jujitsu too because there's no ego. Like, if you're in the right gym, there's no egos, right?
Right.
It's just like you tap and you shake hands and you start over, right?
Yep.
It's beautiful. Like,
Yep.
that's life, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's no, unless you're with some. I mean, I'm not saying all jujitsu gyms are the ideal, but if you're in the right jujitsu gym, it's like, people are coaching each other and they're helping each
Oh
other,
yeah. Oh,
and,
absolutely. I've
yeah,
stopped
I
in the
mean,
middle and said, "Hold up, man. What are you doing right there? Show me this."
yeah, 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 and the beautiful part about that is they'll stop, and they'll be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, dude, when you do this, so next time don't do that,"
Yep.
They'll give away all their secrets because that's not what jujitsu is about,
Yeah. Love it.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
'Cause, you do one thing and they block it, you do the next thing, it's not a big deal. That's cool, man, I like that, but I really like that you teach that, to people because as entrepreneurs, they get tough. They get in they get in these these mindsets that they're like, "No, I can I can manifest whatever." And I'm like, "Okay, sure, but you also got to realize like you're saying like that's a 22-year-old Photoshop kid.
Right. Yeah.
Like you're
I
not
mean,
manifesting that, bro."
here's a really easy example. I can't tell you how many people I've spoke with where it's I'll ask them. It's like, hey, realistically, as we craft this out, how many days per week can you realistically dedicate to specific exercise?
Oh,
And I
that's
can't tell you
awesome.
how many guys have been like, oh, easy 7. And I'm like, okay, so tell me how that worked the last time you tried to work out 7 days a week, because here we are. And so most people, I'm going to cut them so far back from where they think they can, because this is getting the quick wins that we spoke about earlier,
Oh,
actually
good
hitting
point. Yeah,
those
good
things
point.
that we said we were going to do. And this is
Yeah.
extremely important from a place of confidence, because if you put out that goal of like, I'm going to hit the gym 7 days a week, and you don't, you just lost belief in your ability to do what you said you would do. Like right there, you just
Yeah,
lost
exactly.
credibility with yourself. Where instead, if we can scale it back and like, hey, let's do 3 workouts this week. You knock
Yeah.
that out of the park. You build some credibility with yourself. Your confidence
Ooh, I
goes up.
like
The
that.
next week it's easier, and now all of a sudden we have momentum, and now we're feeling better. And this whole thing becomes self fulfilling, because why would you not do something that makes you feel better, that builds your confidence and builds credibility with yourself? So
Yeah.
it's very important to like, again, yeah, I love that you want to just go a million miles an hour. Let's pull that back. Let's hit those minimum standards. If you hit that minimum
Yeah.
standard and you want to add to it, fantastic, but let's hit the minimum standard.
Yeah, that's so true, dude. I like that though. You said building credibility with yourself. Because it's nice on paper, dude.
Oh,
But until you
yeah.
actually do it, you know what I mean? Until you actually do it and you can like see yourself and you start like, "Oh yeah, dude, I can do this. I can do this."
Hmm.
Or like this isn't as hard as I thought. I think that's what gets especially entrepreneurs, like a lot of people, a lot of business owners, they get caught up in this idea that it's easier than they think or it's harder than they think. It's never like reality when they think. They'll
Yeah.
be like, "Oh, this is gonna be the easiest thing," and it slaps them in the face, or this is gonna be the hardest thing. Like they psych themselves out. And what was this quote that I remember? I don't remember who said it, but just worrying means you just suffer twice.
Yeah.
you
Yeah. I like that. That's good. Yep.
know what I'm saying? And they do. They just, you psyched yourself out, and actually, it was not that big of a deal.
Yeah. And again, I think most people, when they start, they think it's going to be so much more work than it is. Like,
Okay.
particularly like even like nutrition, where it's like, when you think about from like yeah, you're gonna have to make some nutritional adjustments, but like the reality is it doesn't add really anything to your life. Like you
Yeah.
already eat. Like this is already something that you do.
Yeah.
Right? It's not
Right,
like
right.
shit, man. I just went from I never eat to now I gotta eat and like maybe cook some meals or like figure out how to order some healthy meals. But like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
already an activity that you do. So it's not
Right.
really even like, oh man, this time. And it's like, yeah, you gotta do some workouts, but like we can carve out the time. Maybe you have to do it at the home. You do a home gym. Like I personally have had a home gym for like the last 5 years. And it's
Oh,
like
cool.
you don't even have to go to a gym. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
you know,
What's your equipment of choice in your home gym?
so to be fair, in the last 3 months, I actually just went back to a traditional gym, which has been like
Fair enough.
I could create a sitcom, man. I understand why people don't like going. It's fantastically hilarious. Um, and I can understand the intimidation for many people. And I'm having a blast there right now.
Oh,
But
that's
it
cool.
but in the last previous to that, my gym has been at home outside of again jujitsu.
Uh-huh.
So for me, the basics or the foundations that for most people, it's like we can make some tremendous changes with just a good set of adjustable dumbbells, and then
Okay.
we can build from there. So again, starting with those minimum standards, it's like, hey, like let's just get some dumbbells that we can create some
Yeah.
resistance with, and then you can start to piece things together. Because again, you don't
Right,
need to go
right.
spend $10,000 to build out a rogue fitness professional gym that you never use. Like there's
Yeah,
no
dude.
value in that, right? Like that's
Yeah.
defeating. That is going to lose credibility. Like that's the last thing we want to do.
Right.
But beyond that, some barbells, things like a TRX, some stretch bands, just some basic
Okay.
stuff is going to be all you need.
Yeah, I like that because I think, oh man, I'm waiting to yeah, I'm trying to get some, kettlebells. Do you like kettlebells?
Yeah, kettlebells are great. And again, like you could use a
Just
dumbbell,
a
right?
kettle
Like you can
Yeah, or a
swing a
dumbbell,
dumbbell,
yeah.
like it's the same
Oh,
thing.
like a kettlebell. All right,
Yeah,
fair enough, man. I'm not tripping. I'm
yeah,
just like here. I'm like, okay, what could you do? Like, what are some of the most and you answered it, but like, what are some of the best things that you can like have in your home gym? Because I think that's great for people. I'm like, yeah,
yeah,
dude,
and
because I just don't like going to the gym. There's like a lot of ego, and I just know. I'm not saying this to be a douche. I just know myself. Like, I don't do well with other people, like other people's egos. You
sure,
know,
yeah, yeah. I
just
mean,
I'm just like, I don't have time for this, man.
well, also from a logistics standpoint, again, time is probably the number one barrier I run into with guys,
Yeah, okay, deal.
without question. And oftentimes this is, very real. I had a
Yeah.
client who it's like, your whole business is coming down to this thing you're sending off to the FDA. Like, yeah, don't get that workout tomorrow. You need to like work on that.
Oh, yeah, good point. Yeah, dude.
Right?
Yeah,
Like
sometimes you
we're gonna
just
have to
gotta
flex the schedule, and you can make up it up. You have time in the week to still hit your standards.
yeah,
But if you are time pressed, it's like the amount of time it took you to drive to the gym, get checked in, drop your stuff off in the locker, and then by the
yeah,
time it took you to get out, get your stuff, and the guy who talked to you, like you could have probably had a good workout at home or even in the office.
yeah, yeah,
And so this is just where it's like finding a way to not hide behind the challenge.
yeah,
And
yeah, good point.
you got to figure a way around that. And again, it could be something as simple as that, where it's like, you know what? I know if I go home, I'm going to sit down. It's not going to happen. So I've actually taken and created a little home gym in my office
Oh, cool.
because
Oh,
I,
yeah, because you can do something for 15 minutes or
I
something
get
like
it
that. I don't know,
done,
just
then I go home.
yeah,
Right.
cool,
And,
cool.
there's going to be a million different ways that you can apply, the general principles and pillars to your unique situation.
Yeah.
But I promise anybody listening to this, there's somebody else who's solved it, who is just as busy, just as stressed, has just as
Well,
many
that's the
responsibilities.
yeah, that's the thing, man. I'm like, when I talk about excuses, like I always start from like an empathy viewpoint, which is like
Sure.
excuses are real,
Oh,
and that's
yeah.
why they suck, dude.
Yeah.
Because they're real. Like, yes, your ass hurts, the bills are due, like all of this stuff is true, right? But like
Agreed.
at the end of but like what are we gonna do about it, man?
Yep. One of my favorite thought processes around this is how do you turn the excuse or the challenge, and we can call it whichever one we
Yeah,
want. How
yeah.
do you actually turn it into the motivation? Because you're
Right,
gonna have
yeah.
to overcome it either way. So, like an example of
Yeah.
this is like, man, it's really hard because I have kids, and it's like, dude, your kids are gonna be the reason now that you work out, or the kids are gonna be the
Yeah.
reason that you're gonna get healthy. And it's like,
Yeah.
man, with my business, I'm so stressed. Oh, cool. You need to get yourself in a healthy state to deal with that stress. and like
Yeah,
flip
good.
the
I like,
struggle
yeah.
into the motivation because you're going to have to overcome it either way.
Yeah, you're gonna have to overcome it, and 9 times out of 10, the excuses really aren't gonna go away. Like, the same excuses that I had a month ago, I'm gonna have a month from now.
Yeah. Yep.
Right, I mean, it never goes away. Like, if you're a
Mhm.
business owner and you think like one day my business is gonna like whatever, you got some fairy tale thing in your head. It, it's not. Or like, when you solve one problem, another one
Yeah.
comes up. You know what I'm saying?
Or let's just say it all goes well and your business
Okay.
grows. Okay. Like, yeah, right?
You
Like,
think you don't have time now?
right.
Wait till you're at a 500,000, homie. Then you're not
Yeah.
gonna know what time is, bro.
Right. So, and again, this is where it
Yeah, man.
comes down, and it's extremely important to come up with tools and strategies that, regardless of what's happening, like it can just kind of fit. And again, the nutrition doesn't need to be heavy. You're not running
Yeah.
around with your digital scale trying to like
Right.
weigh out every single thing for forever.
Right,
And
right,
there's
dude.
going to be a way to fit it in. And then once you've got to that point, kind of like where you're at with jujitsu, to where once
Yeah.
you've turned a corner to where the positive feelings from it can drive the action, like you're in the sweet spot.
Right, dude, absolutely. And you're totally oh man, I love this conversation because it's just I want people to like open their eyes and just realize that they can, you know what I mean, that they can do stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they can get through things and they can do that's just
Well, when you want to
and it
talk
doesn't
like
have to look like everything else, you know?
right, I mean, I always say like, man, exercise, nutrition, or yourself, like working on yourself, like your
Yeah,
physical. It
yeah.
is the simplest proof of a growth mindset. Like it's the easiest way to show that, like, man, if I apply myself, I put effort, things get better. Like you visually
Yeah,
see it too.
right.
And there's so much use and utility in developing that muscle of doing hard things when you don't feel like doing it, because that is life. And there's nothing better than like, man, like I can't tell you how many times I've worked out because I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Like I'm just using it as the tool to strengthen that muscle because there's gonna be other stuff that I don't want to do
Yeah.
in business life, right? Like
Yeah,
it's gonna be part
absolutely,
of it.
man. Absolutely. Well, that's great, dude. As soon as and that's kind of why I think fitness is a great place to start because it proves to your like mind that you can do hard things because
Oh
I'm
yeah,
sure, I mean it's not easy. Like we're not playing games, you know what I
right.
mean?
And it is gonna be hard when you start. It's gonna be really
Yeah, it
hard,
is going to be hard when you start. Yeah,
and then it
absolutely.
gets a little
Absolutely.
easier, and then you learn how to make it hard again.
Right. Yeah, absolutely, dude. Well, hey, I appreciate you being here, man. I really appreciate your insight. I appreciate your words. Tell people how they can find you, all your websites and your links, and get a hold of you if they want to.
Sure. Easiest place, just go to livegreatlifestyle.com. I got everything
Okay.
from there, and that's the best way to connect with me.
LiveGreatLifestyle.com.
Yep.
Cool, man. I love it, dude. Well, again, I appreciate you joining me and thank you so much, man.
Yeah, this was fun, man. Appreciate you having me on.